Welcome everyone to the Housing Choice Voucher Program Home Ownership Panel. My name is Leslie Schmelzer. I'm with Dewitt Associates. We are an affordable housing consulting firm located in Bethesda, Maryland. We were retained by HUD to gather additional information and resources for agencies that are currently administering home ownership programs or those that may be considering operating a program to serve their community and their clients. Over the last several months, my colleagues and I have conducted several focus groups with about 100 different housing authorities across the country. We collected a great deal of information, and with that focus groups, we were able to select 5 very experienced panelists to join us today to talk about their strategies and give some best practices and tips on how they administer a successful affordable housing home ownership program. And also with that, we were able to identify a couple of key topics that we're going to focus on today, being the affordability gap and partnerships. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and just do a brief introduction of our panelists today. From Kentucky, from Louisville Metro Housing Authority, we have the Executive Director, Lisa Osenka. From Ohio, with the Columbus, Ohio Metropolitan Housing Authority, we have Andrea Rankin. She is the Housing Assistance Manager. From Michigan, we have Lisa Lehman. She's the Home Ownership and FSS Statewide Program Manager for the Michigan State Housing Development Authority. From Texas, we have Deanna Broussard from the Home Ownership and Family Self-Sufficiency Manager, she's the Home Ownership and Family Self-Sufficiency Manager for that program. From the Fort Worth Housing Solutions, that is a public housing agency in Fort Worth. And then finally, we have Sandra Pearson. She's going to be a different perspective with many years of experience in home ownership. She is the CEO and president of Habitat for Humanity for Michigan. So before we jump in, just a little bit of background. During those focus groups, as I said, we gathered a lot of information, and it was very clear that across the country, the real estate markets vary from region to region, but overall, in all regions that were surveyed, affordability was one of the main issues impacting home ownership programs across the country. With the increasing cost of the housing market and clients' incomes not keeping up with the rate of inflation, that's just broadened that affordability gap. And secondly, as I mentioned, key partnerships are important for a successful home ownership program. And all of our panelists today have worked extensively with their community partners, created great relationships with lenders in order to provide successful programs for their clients for home ownership. So with that being said, I'm going to just start by asking each panelist to answer a few questions, general questions related to their home ownership program. So the first question I'm going to ask is if you could just briefly describe the size of your Housing Choice Voucher program and approximately how many annual home ownership closings do you anticipate? So I'm going to start with Lisa Osenka from Kentucky.
All right. Thank you, Leslie. So Louisville Metro Housing Authority was the first housing authority in the nation to have a homeownership closing. So thank you for letting me go first and put that little plug in. We've almost had 400 closings, our voucher through that time, over 20 years now. But annually, we look at 25 or so closings each year, and that seems to be pretty consistent these days. So we also have about 11,000 voucher holders, so quite a big program. So thank you for having me here today.
Thank you for joining us. Next, we'll go to Andrea from Columbus, Ohio. Andrea, I'm sorry.
Thank you for that introduction. My name is Andrea Rankin. I am the Housing Assistance Manager with Columbus Metropolitan Housing Authority, and I oversee and manage our FSS as well as homeownership programs. We currently administer roughly 13,500 Housing Choice Vouchers, in addition to managing HUD's project-based rental assistance contract, which covers about 81,000 units in Ohio and Washington, D.C. through our subsidiary, which is AHSC. We actually have about anywhere between 11 to 14 closings per year. And since inception in 2004, we've done a little over 290 plus homeownership closings.
Great. How about Lisa Lehman from Michigan State Housing Development Authority?
Thank you. So we are a little bit different. I'm Lisa Lehman. I am the homeownership and the FSS statewide program manager. We cover all 83 counties in Michigan. We sit within the Housing Finance Authority for the state, and we have about 29,000 vouchers. So our program consists of one full-time employee and half of my time. And then I also am half with the FSS and one full-time employee there. And we have 1,500 FSS slots. So we're very lean where we're at. We do about 50 closings a year. We just closed on our 650th home. And I think the thing we're most proud of is we only have, to our knowledge, one default. And that default was, still gets me, but it was one that we just couldn't avoid. It was in a bad situation, and nothing we could do about it. But here we are. So we're moving forward.
Thank you. That's pretty impressive. Deanna Broussard from Fort Worth.
Yes, thank you for that introduction. My name is Deanna Broussard. I am the FSS and Homeownership Manager here at Fort Worth Housing Solutions in Fort Worth, Texas. Our Housing Choice Voucher program is a little over 6,000 vouchers. Since the inception of our homeownership program in 2004, we have assisted about 286 families to reach their homeownership goal. We're averaging about 13 closings per year. And to my knowledge as well, we've only had one default, and that default happened right at the very beginning. Didn't understand how that happened, but just one default out of almost 17, 18 years.
Thank you for that. And Sandra, I'm not sure you can provide information specifically to program numbers, but how about some of your background?
Thank you for inviting me here to provide a partner perspective. And I think it's also important to know that Lisa Lehman and I worked together and developed the program together years ago, and you'll hear more about that in a bit. But Habitat for Humanity of Michigan, we add to the capacity of our statewide network of 48 local offices. We are really good at leveraging programs. So we are a HUD certified counseling agency. We are a family self-sufficiency agency with our Michigan State Housing Development Authority. We administer HUD and MSHDA grants of down payment assistance and home repair funding. And we also package 502 direct loans for the USDA. Our network of Habitat home builders creates about 100 new homeownership opportunities, with households qualifying between 25 and 80% of area median income each year. And our pool of home buyers are renters. They're renting, and we are helping them with their goal to become mortgage ready and their goal to one day own a home. And just as this panel of successful homeownership programs, our families do have a proven track record of successful long-term homeownership.
Great. Thank you all for that information. Very impressive, all of your numbers, and a great deed you're doing for your clients and your community. So the next question I'm going to ask is if the panel could just briefly describe the real estate market within their jurisdiction, the affordability gap that's currently, the current affordability gap, and how are your clients being impacted by that? I'm going to start with Deanna.
All right, the current conditions here in the Fort Worth area is that it is what we call a seller's market. Right now, sales prices on homes are extremely high. So what we're seeing are buyers who are willing to pay well over the sales price. And we're talking about $10,000, $20,000 over the sales price. Well, our HCV families are unable to do that. So that particular phenomenon is impacting us greatly. We're now having families to decide to delay their homeownership process until this market has actually changed.
Right. It's probably going to be a pretty consistent answer, but Lisa in Michigan?
So yeah, we're seeing the same things, except for right now we're seeing an all-time low of inventory. And so not only are we seeing the high prices, but now you've taken out the inventory, because we've been pretty creative in being able to find the house if it needs work and being able to find the resources to come in and fix it. But those houses aren't even existing right now. So not only are we dealing with the high price, we're also dealing with an inventory problem.
Thank you, Lisa. Sandra?
Yeah, at being builders, the current economic situation is, very much impacting our ability to build homes due to not only cost, shortage of supply, shortage of construction workers, because we do hire contractors, as well as we do staff some construction workers, but the volunteer base is impacted as well because the construction workers have such a demand on their business that there's fewer opportunities for them to be available to volunteer, and as well as less on donations of supplies and so forth. But one thing I'd like to mention on the people side of it is that we're having a heck of a time keeping attention that home ownership is affordable housing at the income levels that we're here to discuss today. And we're right back there again where, higher incomes are, if you can't afford to buy it straight out, then maybe you shouldn't be a homeowner. So we're encountering all of the same barriers of the mind on creating homeownership opportunities for people of lower incomes as well.
Thank you for that insight. Andrea, I apologize.
No problem. So I'm going to echo the sentiments of the other three panelists, both Lisa and Deanna hit it on the head. There's a lot of issues with the median list price for homes right now in the Columbus, Ohio market. Is still relatively competitive and tight. Again, it is a seller's market, so we're finding that a lot of our families, specifically our disabled heads of households, are running into issues where they just cannot compete because the income is not there to cover those costs. And with regards to the affordability gap, we've tried to be as flexible as we can with allowing, the real estate professionals to write in maybe a $2,000 to $5,000 appraisal gap just to get the client's offers accepted or even get them to look at it. But we are really experiencing some difficulty with it because of the low inventory and the record high prices that have started to present.
Thank you for that. And Lisa from Louisville, any different things happening down there or pretty similar?
Pretty similar. I echo what my colleagues have said. The only thing I'd add that's it's not that it's different, it's just it hasn't been mentioned yet, is around location. And where our home buyers would like to buy, they're priced out, and in the neighborhoods that they are, where their incomes and our subsidy can help support that home ownership, are already neighborhoods that historically have been in redlining situations and where the stock is older and in need of more long-term repairs and don't have the same green features that they would want in being a homeowner.
Great, thank you for that comment as well. That's very important to note. Now I'm going to ask each panelist what is the biggest hurdle they're facing right now, although we may have just discussed the biggest hurdles that everyone is facing right now. But in case there's anything else, I'll go ahead and start with Andrea. Are there any other hurdles that you're facing right now?
Well, I speak to just the high prices and our folks not having the income to cover the cost of the units that are out there. And then, like I said, even though, inventory is coming online slowly but surely, it's just not enough out there for individuals to actually adequately go after. So I think, again, that's one of our biggest hurdles is just affordability all day long and not being able to afford it, being priced out in some of the neighborhoods that they desire.
Lisa from Louisville, do you have any other additional challenges outside of the affordability and the inventory?
I think that is probably also the same. Yep.
Yeah. Well, I'll just open it up rather than calling on each one. Is there any other challenges that you feel you may be facing that's impacting your ability to continue to run the successful programs you're known to have run outside of the affordability gap and the housing market currently?
I do definitely have one. One of my biggest challenges is finding the lenders and the banking institutions who are willing to actually work with our Housing Choice Voucher homeownership program. Our families are coming with some additional requirements attached to them. That could be the 2 inspections We have the lenders who is actually layering other programs with with the financing. So this creates a delay in closing. So many of our banking institutions and lending institutions are saying, okay, this is coming with a little bit too much red tape. So they're opting to not participate. So that is definitely one of the largest hurdles that I have here.
Thank you for that. Sandra or Lisa, anything to add?
Yeah. And this, just to further the point and paint a picture of it, pre-pandemic, our gap of development subsidy and affordability was about 30,000, and today it's 60,000 and higher. And that's just on the cost to build or rehabilitate a unit. And then the appraisal gap is even higher. And we do set the sale price at the appraised value, and secure liens up to that sale price. So there's a development gap and an appraisal gap.
Thank you. Yeah, you definitely have the different perspective of the development side, which is also important when you're talking about the lack of housing stock that's available. So, Lisa, anything to add from Mishta?
Which one? Strangely enough, I'm exactly opposite on the lending part. We have awesome lenders. I get more calls from lenders to work with us, but we have a preferred participating lender list because there's such a limited amount of staff. We cannot chase everybody down and train them. Our lenders actually put extra money in the deal, and we'll get into this later. So we're not seeing that. But again, I just can't hit enough on, a year ago, we could find the house and we could figure out how to fix it up. We're getting people sending us things without kitchens, without, major bathrooms missing. And they're saying, can I buy this one? And it's like, no, we can't buy that. So we are more hitting that the housing stock is just, even if it's highly priced, it's not there.
Right. Thank you. Yeah, we'll definitely get into your strategies on lender partnerships shortly. And with that, I am going to shift gears to start focusing some of the successful strategies that our panelists have implemented in order to provide additional resources, or as we said, build the partnerships that are necessary to have a successful program. With that, so Deanna, what tools have you been able to utilize regarding down payment assistance or other financial resources to assist your clients?
Okay. Our biggest tool has been the City of Fort Worth Down Payment Closing Costs Assistance Program. All of our families qualify to receive the $15,000 to $20,000 that is provided by this agency for down payment closing cost assistance, as long as they are, or they have to have met the pre-home buyer counseling requirement that is required to get those monies. I've also been able to utilize CRA funding from some of our banking partners such as Wells Fargo, Bank of America, Bank of Texas. These funds have, allowed us to provide the tools and the financing options to help reduce some of our clients' financial burdens so that they can increase their credit scores and ultimately obtain financing approval. So the City of Fort Worth and CRA funding from our banking partners.
Thank you. And Andrea, for Columbus, what additional resources or tools have you been able to obtain to assist your clients?
So for us, we generally work very closely with our HUD certified housing counseling agencies, and so that we can be able to streamline access to those lenders that are very knowledgeable in the down payment assistance grants. But not only that, but to also expand reach to local programs that offer certain types of grant eligible properties where they, will provide like the gap assistance on certain homes. And so some of our biggest providers have been OFA, which is the Ohio Housing Finance Agency, in the city of Columbus. They're one of the biggest down payment grant providers, and they kind of spell out a whole bunch of sub-grants under that. We've also been pretty good at utilizing the City of Columbus ADDIE program, which is the AmeriDream Down Payment Initiative grant, where families can get up to maybe, $5,000 if they're within city limits, Columbus City Schools districts, and things like that. We also look into things that are offered through the VA or Communities First Grant, which can give you up to like 5% of the loan amount. So those have been very, very instrumental in helping a lot of our families that are able to actually go through the process and purchase.
Thank you. Having worked and lived in Ohio myself, I can attest that the Columbus Housing Authority is very good at reaching out and building strong partnerships to assist their clients. With that, I'm going to ask Lisa Lehman if she could talk a little more about the topic she started a minute ago on building successful relationships with lenders. She's done really well on this and has some really good insight.
Okay. So when we went to write this program back in 2004, we were a little late coming to the game. And we started writing it and then we stopped because we looked at our family self-sufficiency program and we had 3,500 participants. We actually called Catherine Greenspan, who wrote the regs, and we thought we might have given her a heart attack when we told her how many we had in the program. And she said, that's too many. And we said, we know, help us fix it. So she actually helped us design our current program, which is pretty awesome. And we're down to 1,500 that we really drill in on. We have 15 FSS coordinators throughout the state. And they also, try to prepare them, if homeownership is their goal, to try to prepare them along with us. So we knew right away with the limited staff that we have internally with MSHDA, we had to go out to our partners. Like the first thing we did was make a partner list internally and externally. Like, who are we going to hit up? So MSHDA has been awesome. We're probably very fortunate we sit within the Housing Authority. So our down payment assistance up to $10,000 is a 5-year forgivable lien that comes to each participant. So that takes a huge weight off the shoulder. But as we all know, that doesn't solve all the problems. So we went out to the lending community, and the problem was we were getting all these phone calls from lenders trying to explain the program to them. And then we get a different underwriter every time. And then we get a different loan processor, and they're all asking for the different documents. And we're like, we've explained this 20 times over. So we require our participating lenders to provide us a team. And I think this has been one of the best things we've done. So we have one loan originator, one loan processor, one underwriter. They all work as a team. But how we got that is through the CRA officer. Your key is a CRA officer. Our average AMI, believe this or not, is 13%. We did not think that when we wrote the program, but we are serving the lowest of the low income population. And that gives them so much CRA credit. Once they find that out, they're like, how do we help you? And so they've been awesome. We have banks that put in $3,500 per deal just because they want to. So that's been a great thing as well. We went out and we went across the state and we just did a huge push to say, okay, every HUD certified counselor, we want to talk to you and we want to explain the program to you. They have great connections with the lenders as well. So then we did the same thing with the real estate community and the lending community. We almost created a little bit of a monster, so to speak. All of a sudden, these phone calls started coming in. It took about a year. It was interesting because it didn't happen right away. And all of a sudden, about a year, we even went to all the other housing authorities that we could get to and said, hey, we know you're too small to have a homeownership program. If you want to let them port to us, we'll let them port to MSHDA since we cover the whole state, and we'll help you out. We have since had to turn that off, and we do track that, and I feel awful about it. But we have received over 200 port phone calls, people that are ready to go since May, and their housing authority doesn't have a home ownership program. So it's sad, but it's just a reality of where we're at. And so as far as the lenders go, the lending piece, it's there. I think you just have to get to the CRA officer, number one. And the biggest piece of advice I would give to you is make them create a team for you so that you're working with just that one particular originator. So we can be out in the field anywhere, and I can know if I'm going to call this bank, I'm going to talk to this loan originator, and he's going to be able to pull up and tell me everything about that participant. And they actually all provide us spreadsheets to say, right now we have 27 people shopping for houses, which there's, like I said, 1.5 of us. And so at any given time, I can go to them and say, where are we at with so-and-so? How much are they approved for? And then because we cross multiple counties, so we cross multiple payment standards, it's approved for so much in this county, approved for so much in this county. We have a lot more that we have to look at than just our individual county as far as what we can afford and what we can make an offer on.
Thank you for that. That's great information. And on that note, one of the resources that HUD has asked Dew and Associates to develop, and it's based also on the input from the focus groups, is like a one-pager that housing authorities could at least provide to lenders that's going to just explain the program from a lender perspective as opposed to a client perspective or a PHA perspective. So hopefully that'll help at least start that communication with that lender and then move towards hopefully building a team that's dedicated to that. That's great information. So with that, I think I'm going to move to on maybe some strategies on how to, or the attempts to address the affordability gap in the area. And I'll go to Lisa from Louisville.
All right, thank you, Leslie. So again, echoing what the colleagues have had to say, we utilize home dollars with our city, and we also utilize other down payment assistance that our state has through the State Housing Finance Agency. And also the idea of encouraging banks to participate at a higher level because they want to get credit for doing that. It also gives them a competitive advantage. And so frankly, through the years, we've been doing this for 25 years now. And through the years, we have found that it differs. Different lenders at different points will have different amounts of down payment assistance, and you see them start to offer it, and then all of a sudden you have more customers, right? Because that's ultimately what our home buyers are. They're customers choosing the best deal for themselves. And so that gives those lenders a competitive advantage, and they see it and they talk about it, and we like to encourage the competition.
Great, thank you. And Sandra, do you have anything to add on addressing the affordability gap?
Sure. We hobble together all kinds of down payment assistance programs, and we fundraise for the gap and so forth. But what I'd like to mention is that we're doing more advocacy than we've ever done before. We've spent this time during the pandemic period educating that home ownership is affordable housing. The Urban Institute has a white paper and a study that speaks to this out right now. And we've got a statewide housing strategy that's being developed. And we're really advocating that homeownership opportunities are available for people of all income levels when they're deemed ready to buy. We've joined other housing coalitions. Housing is on the minds of just about everybody now. And we advocate for historic levels of funding for our Michigan Housing and Community Development Trust Fund, which in years past has only been funded twice in the last 10 years, as well as Federal American Rescue Plan Act to include homeownership development and home repair activities as eligible. And, as has been mentioned, we help hundreds of people stay in their homes, such as our veterans, people aging in place, our Habitat partner families, who could use a hand with some home repairs to stay in their home. We're doing more advocating at both the federal and state level to get grants and capital needed for the gap, learning about other existing tools, such as the Land Bank Redevelopment Tax Increment Financing that can help. Community Land Trust is on the rise. We're involved with more mixed use and mixed income development as a partner. Habitat's not typically thought of in that way, but we're doing things differently there. We've expanded as a partner by growing our HUD certified counseling programs, adding more counselors, becoming a family self-sufficiency agency to bring more synergy and support together who have that goal of owning a home. So it's really about expanding partnerships, building partnerships, leveraging more what already exists, and this is one example of that.
Thank you so much for all of your input on that. I'm now going to go back to questions where I'll ask each panelist some questions. First one I'm going to ask is talking about partnerships, and I know Lisa really dug into some of hers and Deanna, Andrea, but Deanna, outside of just the partnerships we talked about, do you have any partnerships with lenders or any other partnerships that you have built that help sustain and improve your program?
Definitely. Like, for example, one of the most recent partnerships that we've created is with Charles Schwab. Charles Schwab will be providing funding to us by the end of this month, and that is a part of the CRA funding that Lisa Osaka was also speaking to as well. We partnered with Housing Channel and Housing Opportunities of Fort Worth, which are the two certified homebuyer counseling agencies here in this area. All of our families have to funnel through one of these programs in order to begin our process. But we're mainly partnering with the Wells Fargo, the Bank of America, Bank of Texas. All of these agencies have these CRA contacts that everyone needs to reach out to. They are wanting and they are willing to work with your programs. Interbank, Chase Bank, they're coming in providing dynamic financial education classes on a quarterly basis to our families. So they might not be providing you the dollars, but they're providing you the information and the tools that they have available. So I just encourage everyone to reach out to those banking institutions, and it could be any of them in your community.
Thank you, Deanna. Lisa, I know we talked a lot about Lehman, about the lenders. Do you have other community partners that you work with to make a successful program?
Yeah, I think Deanna did a great job on giving you the big picture people with the big bucks. But when you get to an individual house and you need about $10,000 rehab on that house before you're going to be able to close on it, we went directly to the sellers and gave them our spiel and said, this is a low income family, first time homeowner and their entire family. And that family has come in as a team. It could have been their parents passed away and it was their house. They have redone that whole house. We've had furniture stores come in and furnish the whole house. We've walked into Lowe's and we've said, hey, we need to get this house repainted. And Lowe's came in and said, here, and our staff needs community service hours and we're going to come in and do that. But I encourage you to look for old home money that is sitting within the cities. I come from a community development background. That's where I started at MSHDA, was rehabbing downtown rental rehab and homeowner rehab. So it's kind of my passion to go out and find this. And Federal Home Loan Bank, the foundations that we have in Michigan are incredible. The last house we just closed had 5 liens on it, and it was just a plethora of different people, including Habitat. We went to Habitat and said, we need a garage put on. They came in, put a garage on, and they put the kids' names in the concrete that they poured over the covered porch. I mean, it's just awesome stuff like that where we're always constantly amazed. We hook with the Master Gardener program wherever we can, and we can go into the prison build program, and they have all of the shrubs and trees and stuff that they're growing in the prisons. The homeowner, we take them in there, we let them pick them out, and we bring them back, and we'll have the Master Gardener help them design the landscaping and all that, because we want to teach them to be a good neighbor. That's really important to our program, to bring to it not only, you know, you're a homeowner, but now you've got to be a good homeowner with your neighbors next door. So we always try to have at least a garage or a shed. And when I say shed, the prison build program builds these awesome, they're like mini garages, and we'll bring those in as well. I think each individual house needs to be looked at on its own level, and go out and find the resources that you need to make it the best you can. We refer to it as the 5-year no-touch rule. I think Tony laughed at me last time when I said that, but I don't want that homeowner to have to touch that house for 5 years. Right. And then we can come up with a game plan with them. If we know in 5 years they're going to need a new roof, we can already start saving for that. We have a requirement in our program, a $1,000 maintenance reserve account that they have to always keep at $1,000. If they need to dip into it, they have to talk to us as to why they need to dip into that. And then we work with them as to how to rebuild it. It might be putting $25, $50 a month back into it to build it up. But I can tell you that that has saved us time and time again. If a hot water heater goes out or whatnot, we've also hooked with our local energy companies, and this has just been new for us. We are getting everybody a new furnace, a new hot water heater. The last hot water heater I saw had a panel on the side that had a computer monitor that looked like it could get up and walk away. And so we've been blessed with, you know, all of the local energy companies coming to the table too. And, you know, they replaced the central air unit just last week in one. And I was like, did you ask for that? Like, how did that happen? And so it's out there. It's just digging for it is really what needs to happen, and not give up, because it's there.
Thank you so much. Lisa Osenka.
Sure, absolutely. So many great suggestions. I should be scribbling notes, but I can watch this later and write them down. But I think one area that I don't believe anyone's talked about yet is partnerships with attorneys. I know there are all sorts of lawyer jokes we could say, but That said, we've had great partnerships with our Legal Aid Society on will clinics and family planning documents. We've also had excellent with the closing attorneys themselves, also willing to contribute their expertise in having the family at the same time that they're doing the closing to spend a little time after the closing and to draft a will. So they do the pre-work on that before they even get to the closing table, and then they're finalizing that after they do the closing to make sure that that family has a plan for that asset, because it really is a long-term asset, and it ultimately helps the entire community when there's an understanding of what that family wants to have happen to that asset if the inevitable happens, right? And because in our community we have a tremendous issue around families dying without wills, and then they don't have either their own children, or they have a number of children, or they are going down to grandchildren, or just it starts dissipating the asset, and it's difficult, especially in troubled times, for family members to agree on who gets the house. And so having those lawyers volunteer their services and their skills really helps the whole community tremendously.
Thank you. That's a very important point I would not have thought of. So this is why we're having these discussions, to get all of the good information out there for everyone. Andrea?
So a lot of my stuff is going to be similar to what Lisa Lehman had expressed with regards to the local WARPC, or Middle Ohio Regional Planning Commission, where they do a lot of weatherization benefits for our families. We've kind of built a good relationship with them. So once they move into the home, after they've been a homeowner for approximately 12 months, they can avail themselves of certain resources through them. We also have got a pretty good connection with the City of Columbus Department of Development, because they have a plethora of different programs that they can also utilize when they have certain events occur with the home. And then to Lisa Osaka's point, having that relationship with legal aid is very, very beneficial, because we've had some issues where we've ran into the head of household passing away, and there's other members in the home that assume that there was a will written and there wasn't. And so we've kind of said to ourselves, we need to rework this and make sure that we're coordinating some, conversation around this, so that if something does happen, as she said, the inevitable, that we're already prepared to be able to deal with it.
Thank you. Sandra, any other additional comments on partnerships?
Yeah. I work off the same list as these powerful women here. And so just to enhance a little bit, I'll add that the corporate partners, they are very good with Habitat for Humanity, and you can leverage your local habitat that way to get in with some corporate partners. The utility companies, as one example, we've been working for a couple of years now trying to figure out the community action agencies' weatherization programs, the utility company rebate programs and low-income housing and neighborhood programs, and then Habitat for Humanity. And we have been able to synergize in such a way that we're able to leverage the requirements of each of those resources into one house, where Habitat might go in first, then community action with weatherization, then the utility companies with energy efficiency and rebate dollars. And then you also have opened up a network where the local community foundations might want to be part of that, or other corporate foundations. Lisa and I have always said, if you have a family, you've got the family, you've got the need, the amount of money you need, and the community will rally around and respond.
Great, thank you. Thanks to all of you. Such great advice on all the different partnerships and all the different perspectives on what's needed and regionally. So this is helpful for everybody. They can see what one community may need with Build with Partnerships, another community may need additional or other types of resources to have a successful program. So with that being said, I think I'm going to move to another question, which I will again ask all panelists. What criteria, or rather advice, does your organization provide to clients that are looking to move into a home as a homeowner? So I'll start with Lisa in Kentucky.
All right, thank you. So, you know, the thing that seems to be the most challenging for potential homeowners is getting through the homeownership counseling, that kind of the pre-counseling that's necessary. And so in terms of, you know, we have lots of people express an interest in participating in homeownership, but that first step is a pretty big step and can be challenging. And as you can imagine, all of us are working with families between 0 and 30% median family income for the most part. And so all of the reasons, all of the challenges that those families already have in paying the rent and credit issues are challenges that really come forward to front in homeownership counseling, because we want to make sure that they have the best credit score that they can have in order to get the most favorable terms in financing. And that's going to require real work. So I'll leave it at that, because I'm sure my colleagues have some of the same other things I would say, but I'll start off with the homeownership counseling as being an important first piece.
Thank you. Andrea.
So here in Columbus, we put a very strong emphasis on our participants meeting not only the HUD eligibility criteria, but as well as the PHA here, which is our Public Housing Authority. And we do require a minimum credit score of 660 for all of our folks that are going forward. And the reason that we do that, a lot of people, they scream and they bicker about it, but I think it puts them in a really good space as far as being able to get favorable financing options with the lender later on. And then if they do have some small setbacks, it still keeps them in a space where they're maybe going to be potentially eligible for those down payment assistance grants, because most of them have their own eligibility criteria as well, anywhere between that 620 to 640 range. And so if they're already there, it's less that they have to do. And then just making sure that they are actually bankable, you know, that they have the income and the things like that. So that's what we really focus on here, and as well as connecting them to the home ownership classes that they're going to need as well through those HUD certified agencies.
Thank you. How about Lisa in Michigan?
So because we are so lean staffed, we had to come up with a process that basically flows. And we require them to give us a credit report just from freecreditreport.com. We don't want them to run it to lower their scores. We require them to give us 2 months of bank statements that show that they have at least $1,300 saved in the bank. We use $500 for their earnest deposit. We use $500 for the appraisal, and we use $300 towards their private inspection, which always will typically give them the 1% or come close to it. And we have developed, and it's taken time, and Lisa Osaka said it best. We've been around a long time. And when you said the number of years, I thought it hasn't been that long. And then I was like, yeah, it has been that long. So I'm dating myself here, but we have tweaked this because of, you know, the virus coming and Corona. We had to go figure out, how do we go digital here? How do we go electronic? Because how do we reach? We have over 1,500 people just enrolled in our program, but we also have the 29,000 voucher holders calling us. And then we have all the other PHA people, their participants calling us. So, and that's coming into one student and to one of my staff, and we're getting about 200 phone calls a day. So how do you manage that? So it's quick email blasts. We have canned email responses, which we'd be happy to share with anybody. We have a packet that we give, that we have tweaked that we give to the participant, and it spells them out from homeownership counseling. Here's where you go. We list the exact counselors just in their area. And it goes step by step. And I applaud you, Andrea, that we go with a 640 credit score. We've been looking at switching it to 660. There's something to be said for that. You will catch a lot of flack for that, but that is why our default rate is 1 out of our 650 people. There is no doubt in my mind. So again, I think what you provide to the participants, as far as we give them what we call a welcome packet. And in that welcome packet, it lays it out step by step for them, because you don't have the staff time or the means to be answering 500 phone calls every day from the participant. Okay, I did this. What do I do next? And it's right on there. And after you say a couple times, refer back to your welcome packet. Oh, do you need another one? I'll email it to you. Oh, I don't have an email address. We're going to help you set one up, and we're going to learn that, because as a homeowner, to pay your bills online and do all that, we do all of those things with them, or we have our FSS coordinator or our counselors help with that. So again, I think that it's very important to lay it out from the very beginning. You're here to help, but you're not here to micromanage them. And if you do head that way, you're gonna get yourself tangled up. So, and again, we would be happy to share anything with anyone. I think you'll address that at the end, Leslie, but certainly happy to, because we already went through all the failures and now we're back to what we know works, and we'd be happy to share that.
Thank you so much for that. Deanna, what advice do you offer to your clients in Fort Worth?
Okay, well, I'm basically dittoing just about everything that all the panelists have said here today. We do have an initial homeownership orientation that all of our families have to participate in. We go through the process from A to Z. What happens when you're working with your lender? What happens when you're working with your real estate agent? When you're going through your home buyer counseling? You have to complete all of your home buyer counseling, just as Lisa said. We also require our clients to do post-purchase counseling as well. Even after they have finished the process, we're still requiring them to do their post-purchase. We're still meeting with them and working with them so that they know and we know that they understand what they have gotten into. Just as Andrea and Lisa has said, also we require a mid-score of a 640 or above. And that changes, based on whatever the market is doing or whatever the lender requirement is, if it's higher or lower. But right now, 640 and above is what we're striving for. And then another thing is we stress what we call skin in the game. Everyone has to have their own money. They have to show us that they can save something and that they can do this themselves. So the skin in the game for us is at least $2,000 to $2,500, and that will help them meet those pre-purchase expenses that they're going to be faced with. And it also is a requirement for the down payment closing cost program for the city of Fort Worth.
Thank you so much. Sandra, how about Habitat? What advice do you provide your clients who are looking to get into home ownership?
Everything that you've heard here, and what I'm hearing in this conversation is independence and self-sufficiency. And that's what we are all working, that's what we strive to achieve with our partner families. And what I've learned early on that has remained true all along is that, setting expectations, achieving goals, that is what leads to the success of our partner families. Everybody's looking at them to fail. I even have that level of a conversation with them that people think you're too low income. They expect you to fail. Together, we're going to prove everybody wrong and that you will be a good homeowner. And so when someone calls and says, hi, I want to buy a house, I make sure that they understand we don't give anything away. This is a program that the average time in the program is 12 months, but it can be you're ready today, 6 months, 12, 18, 24, and sometimes as far out as 5 years. But if you are willing to partner and walk this journey together, follow the program, you will achieve home ownership successfully. And and that the program can add all kinds of lists of activities and education and sweat equity and skin in the game. And sometimes I think, wow, everybody who purchases a home should have to go through this. It's no wonder our families are so successful.
Great point, actually. So thank you. Well, thank you also. Before I move on to the closing question, I just do want to acknowledge the dedication and efforts of those that choose to implement and operate a home ownership program, or really any special program, especially given the fact that there's reduced and prorated administrative fees for the past many years. And we all know that this type of program takes more staff time, efforts, and training. So kudos to all of you and to all of you out there watching that are currently operating or considering operating a home ownership program. So thank you for that. So as we close out the session, given the emphasis that the current administration has on home ownership, and I think there's about 700 homeownership agencies out of about 3,000 public housing agencies across the nation. And this is just PHAs. This doesn't include, the Michigan State Development Authority or other agencies that also could administer or choose to administer these types of programs. Given that you would be speaking to peers that maybe are considering going into and implementing a home ownership program, just what advice would you give to your peers, and what do you think is the best approach they should take if they choose to initiate a program such as this? So, Sandra.
I'd say reach out to your Habitat for Humanity and other partners and really build that program. My dream has always been, I really believe that this is the program that already exists that can be scaled up. Others are trying to create these other programs because they don't know this program. This is the program. The whole continuum of someone is homeless, and then we work to get them a housing choice voucher for rental assistance, and then the opportunity to join family self-sufficiency and save money there as your personal economics improve. And then that money can be used as a down payment on a house or other activities. And then you have that pipeline of buyers who are prepared. And then who are the organizations that can help you with the down payment assistance and with the house product itself. And you could potentially be the teacher of the habitat. The habitats might not all fully understand this continuum and their role in it, but they can serve as the builder, the renovator, the home repair, Lisa doesn't hesitate to call us. Do we always help? No. Do we help sometimes? Yes. And she'll call me up and say, Sandy, you've got that goofy habitat over there. Go help them help us. And so then that's another training opportunity to lean on that entire network and leverage all of those partnerships.
Thank you for that. Deanna, any last words of advice for your peers out there?
Yes, my advice would be that when you are forming your program, to bring all of your community partners who will be working with your families to the table. When you're establishing your action plan for your homeownership program, make sure that they're there and that they're teaching you and the PHA staff about their processes. Mainly those lenders, make sure they're at the table, but not just the lenders, the underwriters. The underwriters are the ones that will be receiving those lending packages. And they're going to be asking the questions. What is the Housing Choice Voucher Program? How does that voucher work and work with the mortgage financing? They're the ones that are going to say yay or nay to that lending package. So that's most important. And then additionally, have your inspectors, your real estate professionals, all of those people at the table when you're forming your programs so that you can learn their processes and you can help your families work with those professionals.
Great, thank you. Lisa from Michigan.
I think first and foremost, the ladies that you're looking at here, call us. We're all, I think, more than willing to help you. And I do not believe in reinventing the wheel. Our name is Key to Own. Guess what Chicago's is? It's Choose to Own. We like the name, but we didn't take it completely. We called them. We did call them. So I think we have things in place from doing it, as the other Lisa said, for a number of years that took us a long time to figure out. And you just, if you don't do it in a methodical way, you're never going to have the time to hit everything. We have it down to a science. As soon as we go from the lender, now we're going to start looking to the house. We won't let them look for a house until we have a conference call with their real estate agent, the participant, on the phone with us. And then when we get to write the purchase offer, you don't write a purchase offer until we've looked at the house. We've, we work weekends. I'm not going to kid around with you. We get phone calls at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, say, we're looking at this house. We need to make an offer right now. There's multiple people coming in. What do we do? We've been very successful here in Michigan, going in a little bit under the purchase price and then going back to them and say, we want these $5,000 to $10,000 worth of repairs. We're going to up the purchase price and you guys make the repairs. And we have worked with the other real estate agent and been phenomenally successful in that, much to my surprise. So I think It's sitting right here in front of you. Call us. I think any of us would be more than willing to help you and partner with you to make sure that, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Don't reinvent the wheel.
Thank you. Andrea.
So I'm going to ditto everything that each of these wonderful panelists has said. And I'm just going to say, I can't emphasize and stress enough, get out there early, network, and build those strong working relationships with the lenders, the real estate professionals, and anybody else who you think would be great in working and supporting those interested families through the process. Be strategic in your approach. You want to make sure that, again, you're pulling all the right strings and that you're willing to train the trainer, because there's going to be a lot of folks that's going to express interest in wanting to work with your people and don't have a clue of where to begin. So just being willing to be that educator and, like I said, holding some people's hands through the process is going to be crucial as well.
Great. And last but not least, the one with the oldest homeownership program, I believe. Lisa, any advice for your peers?
All right, thank you so much. And again, thanks to HUD for hosting this. So I think the piece that we haven't talked about yet, besides echoing my colleagues here, is the MTW program, the Moving to Work program. That used to be there were only 39 of us, and now the HUD is expanding those into 4 new cohorts of MTW expansion agencies. I cannot encourage you enough to participate in that and to consider it. One of the things that we are the only housing authority in the nation, you see how I like to say that, we're trying as an experiment is looking at a home preservation program, what we call HPP, and now HPP Plus, because we had to make it better. But that is we've had 3 Hope 6 programs and 1 Choice Neighborhoods program, and we know that there are families that already invested in those neighborhoods prior to our investment through homeownership. And so what we have done is, if now those families are income qualified, we have a limited admissions preference through the MTW flexibility around regulations to allow those families, again, if they're income qualified, to come into the homeownership program, even though they're already homeowners. And so we're very excited. It's a very young program. Candidly, we don't know if it's going to work. We've had some early successes, but we want to, those families that took the chance on a neighborhood that had a high population of public housing in it at one point, we want to invest in those families for that long-term stability of those neighborhoods. And this is a way we can do investment without displacement.
Thank you so much. So again, I want to thank all of our panelists today for agreeing to participate. Your experiences, expertise, and creative strategies are all very impressive, and I am certain all the viewers of this panel in the future will consider this time well spent. There's a lot of great advice there. So, and as mentioned, in addition to agreeing to participate today, all panelists have agreed to have their contact information shared with you in the event that you may choose to contact them for any additional insight into their particular program. So with that, I'm going to end the session by sharing the contact information for our panelists, and this will also be available as an attachment to this webinar. So again, ladies, thank you so very much. I appreciate everything that you shared today and your time and efforts with serving your community.
Thank you for having me.
Okay.
Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Great to be
Thank
with
you.
you.